lots to parse here. We'll begin with CBS News' Chief White House Correspondent Major Garrett. He is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Good enough to join us this morning. Major, we are sensing perhaps a bit of history in the state. What sort of turnout is expected in Wisconsin today?
Well, good morning, Josh. Election officials here projected turnout to be 40%. That would be the highest for a presidential primary for both parties, Republican and Democrat, since 1980. And I can tell you, outside the municipal building here in downtown Milwaukee, since the polls opened at 8 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. local, there's been a steady stream of voters coming in and coming out in jovial mood, happy to participate. So if those lines, well, they're not huge lines, but the steady stream is an indication those turnout projections are going to come true, and there'll be a lot of people participating across the state of Wisconsin. High turnout has historically worked to Donald Trump's advantage. That may not be the case here. Wisconsin Republicans, conservatives, many of them, have taken a somewhat dim view of the Trump campaign, and the polling data, except for a couple of outliers, suggests a good night for Ted Cruz. You mentioned the polling data. CBS News' poll, again, in Wisconsin, as we take a look here, has Ted Cruz winning by 6 points. The Texas senator certainly campaigned through the week as somebody who expects to win this state. So if Cruz loses today, what sort of blow would that be for his campaign? Well, it would be a blow in a couple of respects, in that it would undermine not only the Ted Cruz ground operation, which was well developed here in the state, and it would also undermine the endorsement of Scott Walker, the sitting Republican governor who had to face and successfully won a recall election, then ran for re-election. One of the things the Cruz campaigns expected from the Walker endorsement was a mobilization of the Walker grassroots network in this state. And if those things don't come to pass, the Cruz operation and the Walker, and Trump draws a lot of first-time voters that were underneath the radar, undetected by the Cruz ground operation, that would reinforce that Trump is adding voters and bringing new participants to this election process. And it would be not a stunning upset victory, but it would certainly be something that would surprise pollsters here, surprise all the analysts here, surprise the Cruz campaign. And I would tell you, if Trump won, it would also surprise some in his own campaign, because they, for the better part of a week, Josh, have been telling me privately, they don't think Wisconsin is a state that they can win, and are trying to get as many delegates as they can, working that side of the state as opposed to a statewide victory.
Major, I want to ask you about a story in the Washington Post today concerning Donald Trump. He has said that he will force Mexico to pay for a border wall by threatening to cut off the flow of billions of dollars in payments that immigrants actually send home to the country. Obviously an idea that the Washington Post says could decimate the Mexican economy and really set up a showdown now between the United States and obviously a key diplomatic ally to the south. What to be made of, this ratcheting of the rhetoric we've seen from the Trump campaign from its very outset?
Well, let's set aside the rhetoric for just a second, Josh, and go to the underlying details, which have long been absent from Trump's promise not only to build a wall, but have Mexico pay for it. There's a 2-page memo the Trump campaign has just released, and it talks about a provision of the Patriot Act which allows the federal government to impose regulations on financial transactions. What the Trump campaign is saying is if Mr. Trump is elected president, he could propose a rule that would also govern financial transactions dealing with what are called remittances. Those are payments from people in the United States to their family or friends, in most cases family in another country. And what the Trump campaign is saying is, as president, Trump could change those Patriot Act rules to govern remittances as well as the transactions already covered by law. And that would be a direct threat to some $24 billion. That's a Trump campaign estimate of remittances from those in the United States who came from Mexico or Central America, and those are payments to their family. What Trump is essentially saying is he would regulate those payments, disallow them until Mexico made a pledge to pay for the construction of the wall on the U.S.-Mexico border in order to keep those remittances going. Now, back to the rhetoric. That would certainly ratchet up the sense of economic tension between the two countries and essentially say to Mexico, there's money that is being made in the United States, in some cases by undocumented workers, and being sent to Mexico. That money allows you, government of Mexico, not to provide a social safety net. It is essentially money earned in the United States and sent into your country. Trump is saying, I want to stop that, and if I stop it, you won't get the money, and the way for you to continue that flow is to agree to pay for a wall. That's the rhetoric, and that is the specifics of the Trump proposal on the construction of a wall. Many more details to be sorted out, of course, but this is by far the first and most specific articulation of an attempt under U.S. law and under remittances procedures to try to pressure Mexico into making a decision it has said countless times it will not do.
So much to parse there, and we know you will be all over that for us. Major Garrett in Milwaukee, lots from you today. We appreciate the time.
Thanks so much.